You've probably heard this story, right? The one about how a single composer, with a single piece of music, basically saved an entire art form from disappearing forever. It's one of the greatest legends in all of music history, and it stars the one and only Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina.
So here's how the story usually goes. It's the mid-16th century, and the Catholic Church is in the middle of this big meeting, the Council of Trent, and they were seriously on the verge of banning all complex music. You know, what we call polyphony, where you have multiple voices singing different things at once. The problem? The sacred words were getting totally lost. But then, in 1565, Palestrina shows up with his Missa Papae Marcelli, and it was so beautiful, so just out of this world gorgeous, but you could still hear every single word. The cardinals were blown away, and just like that, polyphony was saved.
But is that really what happened? I mean, it's a great story, but the truth? Oh, the truth is actually way more fascinating. We're talking about a massive crisis, some serious high-stakes political drama, and a whole bunch of forgotten heroes who were in the game long before Palestrina even stepped onto the field.
All right, so to really get a grip on this, we've got to rewind. Let's go back to the early 1500s. The Catholic Church is in the middle of this huge shakeup, this massive period of reform, and church music, oh man, it was, well, let's just say it was a total mess.
And you don't have to take my word for it. Just listen to this. This comes from a report written for the Pope himself back in 1543. A bishop is describing the situation, and let's just say he does not hold back. He's painting a picture of total chaos, not exactly the heavenly choirs you'd imagine.
So the bishop lays out these 5 big problems with the church singers, and it is just wild. We're talking singers who literally couldn't read music. They were using books with actual heresy in them. They just shout through prayers. And get this, sometimes they'd even be singing popular, profane songs right in the middle of a church service. Can you imagine? It was a crisis of both skill and spirit.
But here's the real kicker for the church leadership. Even when the singers were good, the music itself was seen as the problem. This complex, polyphonic style, with all these vocal lines weaving in and out, it might have sounded beautiful, but it completely muddied the words. And for the church, that was the deal breaker. If people can't understand the sacred text, then what's the point of the whole thing?
So all this tension, it finally comes to a head at the Council of Trent. I mean, this was a huge deal. All the top church leaders getting together to fix everything. And music was right there at the top of their list. A massive debate breaks out. Do we fix this complicated music, or do we just get rid of it completely? It basically breaks down into 2 teams. In one corner, you've got Team Chant. They're led by powerful guys like Cardinal Morone, and their argument is simple. Clarity above all else. Let's go back to simple, clean, plain song where you can hear every word. But in the other corner, you have Team Polyphony, fighting to defend this incredible musical tradition. They're saying, hey, this stuff is powerful, it's beautiful, it's a gift from God. Okay, so things are looking pretty grim for Team Polyphony. It really seems like they might lose, and all this amazing music could just be banned. But then, right at the 11th hour, some very powerful people get involved, and, spoiler alert, none of them were named Palestrina. And this is where things get really political. Because in 1563, we get a letter from none other than the Holy Roman Emperor, Ferdinand I, and he is not messing around. He makes this powerful case that music is a divine gift that stirs people's souls. And you better believe, when the most powerful man in Europe sends you a letter, you pay attention. But it wasn't just about political arm twisting. There was something else going on, a musical solution that already existed. See, there was a composer out there who was already making the exact kind of music everyone was looking for, proving it wasn't just a theory. Because remember, the goal wasn't just any polyphony, it was intelligible polyphony, music that was complex and beautiful, but where you could still understand the words. And it turns out, a Spanish composer, Cristobal de Morales, was already the undisputed master of this. For decades, he'd been showing everyone how to write this incredible music where the text was still perfectly clear. And here's a crazy little historical tidbit that connects them directly. When Palestrina published his very first book of Masses, the printer just reused an old picture from one of Morales's books. So the picture accidentally shows Palestrina presenting Morales's music to the Pope. It's this hilarious mistake, but it tells you everything you need to know about who Palestrina was looking up to. Okay, so let's recap. You've got the emperor breathing down their necks, and you've got these amazing musical examples from composers like Morales already floating around. The stage is set. So with all that happening, the Council of Trent finally makes its call on the future of church music. And the decision is Polyphony is saved. They didn't ban it. The final decree, which came out in late 1563, said, yep, we're keeping it, but, and this is a big but, it has to be cleaned up. All the worldly, impure stuff had to go. They basically passed the job to a special committee of cardinals to figure out what that reformed music should actually sound like.
So, do you see what this means? The big fight? It was already over. The decision to keep polyphony was made. It was won by political heavyweights like the emperor and by the musical groundwork laid by guys like Morales. All of this happened before Palestrina's famous Mass ever enters the story.
So if Palestrina didn't win the war, what was his role? Well, he wasn't the general who won the battle. He was the one who designed the perfect victory parade. He was the genius who provided the absolute perfect model of what this new reformed music could be. His style became the blueprint for the entire movement.
That's why his Missa Papae Marcelli is so important. It wasn't the argument itself. It was the mic drop. It was the ultimate proof of concept that he presented to that commission. It proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that you could have it all. Music that was heavenly and beautiful and perfectly clear. It literally became the gold standard for Catholic music for hundreds of years.
So, let's go back to our question. Was Palestrina the lone savior of music? Or was he the perfecter of an idea whose time had already come? The legend is simple, it's heroic, it's a great story. But the reality? I think it's so much richer. It's a story about crisis and politics and artists building on each other's work. Palestrina wasn't the savior. He was something maybe even more important. He was the one who perfected the sound, who took all the ideas of his time and created something timeless,